Alex Weibel, and I'm a freshman here at Mizzou. So I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So yes, 40 degrees is shorts weather. It's cold, not soda. I say bagel and boat weird. And oh yeah, because I should have blue sock, go up. So tonight we're continuing this series on spirituality. And 3 weeks ago, Madeline talked about this holy longing that we all have. She talked about how we all have a restlessness, and that Christ satisfies this restlessness when we rest in Him. And then, for the next 2 weeks, we heard about how to meet Christ here on earth. And 2 weeks ago, Emily touched on how we can do this through prayer. And she touched on how we can pray through community, gratitude, and individual prayer. And then last week, Allie talked on social justice. And she talked about how social justice is seeing a need and doing something about it. And so tonight, I'm going to talk to you guys about how we can meet Christ here on earth through our community. And so Madeline touched a little bit on this, and she talked about how Christ is still dwelling among us. How we are the body of Christ, and so we can meet Christ here on earth through people. So growing up, I was a cradle Catholic. My granddad was a pastor, so faith has always been a big part of my family. My parents dragged me to church every Sunday, but growing up, it didn't really mean much to me. I would do anything I could to get out of it. I went to a different church in a different city than I went to school. So it was really hard for me to have a faith community because all the people that went there either went to school in that city or went to the school, Catholic school affiliated with that church. So I didn't have those so-called church friends. And when confirmation came around my sophomore year, I really did not want to go, but my parents forced me. All it was for me was going and awkwardly sitting down with a random group of people, trying to make conversation with people who all already knew each other. And so I didn't get much out of it, but I didn't have that faith community to push me to find the meaning within confirmation. It was just going through the motions for me. So last year, senior year, I started to go to FCA. And if you don't know what FCA is, it's Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And so one night, my sister came upstairs and invited me to go with her. And I said no. I didn't think that I wanted to waste my Monday night sitting in a basement with a bunch of high schoolers talking about the faith at the time. But for some reason, all of a sudden, I was running out the door, stopping her, and jumped in the car. Now, God puts us in certain places at a certain time for a reason, and this was for sure one of them. The talk that night was on Jesus and the cross. And Josh Miller talked about full depth and detail on all the pain that Jesus went through on the cross for us. And his takeaway from this was that we so easily tend to put Jesus second in our lives and put all the earthly things before him, even though he went through all of this for us individually. And so when I left that night, I was reevaluating my life. I had a little bit more of a faith community, but not really much. It was still just my two friends who I went to FCA with and my sister. Now I started to choose to go to youth services, mass services on Sunday nights, and to pray a little more here and there. But I still didn't have that faith community to hold me accountable for that prayer or to push me deeper in my faith. My faith was still very much on my own. So this year, when I came to Mizzou, like I said, I'm from Minnesota, so I moved 400 plus miles away to come here, and I came here alone. So I'm a very introverted and quiet person, so it was very hard for me to make friends. I struggled a lot with the transition. I loved the school and the campus. It was picture perfect for me. But I couldn't seem to make those friends. I would meet a group of people who I thought, okay, they're cool, but then I'd never see them again. Or I'd meet a group of people and then I'd see them around again, but I didn't feel like I was fitting in with them, didn't feel like I belonged in the group. So I was feeling really alone at the beginning of the semester, and so my parents were getting lots of calls saying I'm filling out my application to the University of Minnesota, and they told me, no, Alex, you're going to wait till the end of the year, you have to give it more than a semester. I would tell them, no way, I'm going home. And so one of the first days of the school year, I was feeling extremely alone. Now, I had talked to the girls on my floor here and there within the first couple days, was just kind of a, hey, in passing. And so one day, one of my friends, who's one of my really good friends now, Katie, was walking down to the track, and so was I. But at this time, I had only talked to her like twice, and I was like, hey, I'm Alex. And so as we were both walking down to the track, I realized that, okay, here's just someone to talk to. So I just started pouring out everything to her, telling her how I was going to fill out this application, move back to Minnesota, room with all my friends from high school, can go home whenever I want, it would be great. And I would also feel alone when I would go to Mass. I started going to 11 a.m. Masses in the morning, but 11 a.m. Mass is a lot of families and older people, so I'd walk in alone, sit down alone, leave alone. So I still had very little prayer life and definitely no relationship with Jesus. Now, at the time, my two friends, Rachel and Nicole, were acquaintances. And they texted me one day. They came down from school with me, so they texted me one day, and they were like, hey, Alex, are you joining a Bible study? And I was like, I don't know. So they said, well, I think we should all three join one together. So I was like, what the heck? And we signed up and joined Annalie's Bible study. Now, my Bible study has been great, and I have met some of the best girls who have pushed me so far in my faith. But at the time, beginning of the semester, we were still all freshmen, so we didn't really know, everything was still new to all of us. We didn't know how to get involved with this community. And also in the fall, I was involved in the Mizzou Running Club. And so one day I was running, and this girl shows up and starts telling me all about her life, and I later find out that her name is Dale Dickens. And so on our runs, we started running together a lot, and we talked about our struggles and how we were both starting to grow in our faith. And one of these struggles that we talked about for a while was whether or not to give up a weekend for Awakenings. And if you don't know what Awakenings is, it's a retreat here at Newman that actually a bunch of people just went on last weekend. And so one run, Dale tells me I signed up for Awakenings. So I was like, okay, what the heck, and I signed up for Awakenings. Now this is another time that God put me in a certain place at a certain time for a reason. Because within not even 3 full days, I made friends faster than I ever have in my life. By the end of that retreat, by Sunday morning, I had 40 plus new friends. And these friends were different friends. When I was at home over the summer before I was leaving, my parents would say, Alex, college year, you're going to meet the best friends of your life. And every time I would tell them, no way, heck no, you do not know my friends I have right now. And after this retreat is when they can say, I told you so. Because every friendship that I made on that retreat has pushed me to where I am in my faith today. And this is because Jesus is rooted at the center of each and every one of them. So in high school, if you were to tell me that I would be part of a community that goes to adoration at 11:30 p.m. on a Monday night, I would have laughed at you. Or if you were to tell me that I would be going to daily mass with my friends, or that I would be driving down to St. Louis on a Saturday to go to a Christian concert for fun, I would have laughed at you. And if you would have told that I was going to have a personal handshake with my priest, I would have left. But now Newman has become the best part of my experience here at Mizzou. I have found a community that pushes me deeper in my faith every single day. And this is because, again, the friends here are rooted in Jesus. And through these friendships, I have had amazing experiences. And one of these experiences was on SLS. And if you don't know what that is, it's Student Leadership Summit. And about 30 of us, during winter break, January 1st to the 5th, went down to Dallas, Texas, to a conference to learn about how to be leaders in the church and evangelization. So when I was going down for this, I knew who everyone on the retreat was, but I didn't really know them. I only really knew 2 or 3 people. So I was still nervous about who I was going to talk to, who I was going to hang out with. But this all changed after the first night. After the first night, again, I had deepened my relationship with each and every person on that retreat. I had 30 plus new friends. Now, when you hear about these conference adorations, you hear about how everyone walks out, their lives changed, they're in tears, overwhelmed by God's love. So I went into our adoration expecting that. So second to last night, I walk into this adoration, 3,000 plus people, sit down, I'm like, okay, Jesus, make me cry. And adoration starts. I can see it, everyone begins to cry. There's people literally laid out, sprawled out on the ground because they're so overwhelmed with this love, they don't know what to do in the presence of Jesus. And I was so frustrated because I wasn't feeling any of this. In my mind, I couldn't stay focused. My mind was all over the place. So at one point during this retreat, I heard about this chapter from this book called Rediscovering Catholicism. And Matthew Kelly talks about what a true friend is. And he says that a true friend is someone who's going to push you to be a better person. Now, you might have many, many, many good friends in your life, but if you're able to die saying that you have 2 to 3 true friends in your life, you're truly blessed. So, during this adoration, I started talking to Jesus and why can't I stay focused? Why is my mind all over the place? Why am I not feeling this overwhelming amount of love? And like he always does, he started to put things together. I turned around and I looked down the 2 aisles of Newman that we had. And I realized that I would not be able to pick out one of those people and tell you that they were not a true friend. Now, I've only known these people for a couple days. And I realized that I had 30 true friends in my life right there. Because I knew that each and every one of those people were going to push me to be the better Alex. I could see the face of God in each and every one of them. Now, these people from Newman, my friendships at Newman, they're different than my outside friendships because these Newman friendships are true friendships. Yes, my friends at home, they are blessings in my life. I love them. They are great people. But I cannot tell you that they are a true friend because they're not going to push me to be the better Alex. And again, the reason that these Newman friendships I consider true friendships, Jesus, again, is rooted at the center of them. So one more moment that I've had this year is last weekend. I went out on my run. It was a beautiful day, 50 degrees and sunny, and This by Darius Rucker came on. And if you haven't heard this song, he talks about how he's so thankful for all the things that happened in his life, the good and the bad in the past, because if none of those would have happened, he wouldn't be where he is today. And he's truly blessed with the life that he has today. And the quote that stuck out to me from it in the chorus was, "Thank God for all I missed, because it led me here to this." And I just thought about how lucky I was to to have been put here on Mizzou's campus, because it has brought me the best community that I have ever been a part of. Yes, I went through a rough patch first semester, but if I would not have gone through that pain, wanting to fill out that University of Minnesota application, and if I would have gone home, I would not have been part of this community that I am today. I would not have met some of the most amazing friends that I have ever had in my life. And again, these friends are all rooted in Jesus. Now, before I had this community, although we're never alone because Jesus is always through everything with us, it was still really easy to feel alone on my faith journey. I didn't have people there to push me in my faith, to push me deeper, to challenge me, or to motivate me when it got hard. This alone feeling that I was having was my restlessness. I was restless coming to Mizzou for a community and a place to belong. And I was able to channel this restlessness through the community here at Newman. I had this holy longing, and I was able to reach Christ here on earth through Newman. So this leads me to, why is community such an important part of spirituality? Because if we don't have this community to rest in, we're not going to have a mellowness of heart. And a mellowness of heart is just sitting, resting, and being present with people. We can do everything that we think is right, having an awesome prayer life, serving others. But if we don't just take time to sit and rest with others, we're missing this mellowness of heart. How we relate to others relates with how we relate to God. Jesus tells us the two most important commandments that go together are love thy God and love thy neighbor. So to fully love God, we must love our neighbors, thus being involved in the community. Now, we are not all perfect. We all have our own bumps and bruises, the things that we don't like about ourselves, and they're different for each and every one of us. But we each all have our own gifts as well. And we're called to love ourselves through these bumps and bruises, but we're also called to love our others through their bumps and bruises as well. So we need to come together and support each other through these bumps and bruises, through our community. But we also need to come together and bring our gifts and share them with our community. Again, we may think that we're doing all the right things, awesome prayer life, serving others. But if we don't have this community, we're not fulfilling our holy longing. Jesus took time to sit, eat, and drink wine with his disciples, so we should too. In this book, The Holy Longing, which this series is based off of, Ronald Rolheiser tells the story of a nun. Now, this nun was a part of a convent that lived to the bare minimum. She had 2 pairs of clothes, slept on straw, ate the least that she needed, didn't eat any comfortable food, and gave everything that was not necessary in life to the poor. So he was on a retreat with this nun, and one day their group decides to go out, go shopping downtown, and then go to dinner. But as they're at their dinner, the nun just sits on the bus. So after, he asks her why she did this. And she says she was so disgusted on how all these people were spending money on these things that they didn't need. And then they're at this dinner, and they're eating all this expensive food with this expensive silverware, using nice tablecloths. But then she thought, what if this were Jesus? And she realized that if she were Jesus, Jesus would have been in there, in that restaurant, sitting and enjoying a meal with his friends. She was missing this mellowness of heart. She was being like the older brother and the prodigal son. She was doing all of these nice things. An awesome prayer life, receiving the Eucharist every day, giving all to the poor, serving others. But she wasn't celebrating any of it in her heart. She was doing all these holy things, but still had a holy longing. Jesus tells us that fasting is also fasting from a bitterness of heart. If we don't have a mellowness of heart, we're going to be like that older brother. We may fall into temptation, but temptation to do the right things for the wrong reasons. So why do we need a church? A church is what holds us accountable. It's so easy, again, to think that we're doing enough and doing all these right things. But we're not always, because we're not always perfect. So that's where the importance of our church comes in. Our church is there to push us and to challenge us, to lead us in the right direction and to humble us. Now, we're not always perfect, but God loves us through it all. So we must love others through their imperfections as well. And we can do this through our church community. You love as much as the person you like least. We need to remember to love everyone. I know how easy it is for, after something like E3 or Sunday night Mass, to just go straight to your friends, talk with them the whole time, and then leave. But we need to remember, we need to take a step aside and go love that person that's here for the first time and standing alone. When a Roman soldier went to war, he wore metal armor and carried a sword. But this metal armor only covered the front. It was all open in the back. And it was open in the back because this soldier relied on his fellow soldiers behind him to protect him from the back. In Ephesians chapter 6, put on the armor of God so that you may be able to stand firm against the tactics of the devil. For our struggle is not with the flesh and the blood, but with the principalities and the powers, with the world rulers of this present darkness, with the evil spirits in the heavens. In all circumstances, hold faith as a shield to quench all the flaming arrows of the evil one. We cannot do this faith journey alone, and we're not meant to do it alone. Our church is there to support us and to humble us through this faith journey. They're there to be our shield and to cover our back that's open. Our back is open to the devil and his temptations that he puts here on earth. But our community is a place that can protect us from those. Now, I have come so far in my faith this year, but there is no way I could have done it without Newman. And there's no way that I can continue this faith journey and continue growing without Newman. All of these earthly things around us, all these temptations that are put in front of us, it's so easy to let these things get in the way of growing in that relationship with Jesus. There are so many times when it's so easy for me to say, no, I don't think I'm going to walk over to Newman to go to adoration. Or, I have a lot of homework, maybe I'll skip out on Mass today. But when these thoughts are going through my mind, I have Newman there to jump in and to be that shield from these thoughts and say, hey Alex, are you going to adoration? Pushing me to go. When I'm struggling with a decision, I have Newman to be that shield, to jump in and to tell me, no, Alex, I actually don't think that's what God is calling us to do. When I struggle, or I think that I've done enough in my faith, Newman is there to support me and to humble me. When I'm restless, they are there to rest in. They are the place here on earth that I can rest in Christ. So tonight, I'd like to challenge you with 3 things. First, take a chance on the Newman community. Go to things like E3, daily Mass, Sunday night Mass, maybe join a Bible study. Go to Power Hour if you've never been before. Second, step out of your comfort zone and make a new friend tonight. Go and talk to that person that you've never talked to before. Say hi to people that you see around Newman when you're walking around campus, even if you've only seen them once. And third, invite others. Invite others into this wonderful community and share it with them. Now, before I sit down, I would like to thank everyone here at Newman for all that you have done for me, for welcoming me in, helping Mizzou feel like home, and especially for always challenging me and pushing me further in my faith than I have ever gone before. And tonight, if you're here for the first time, I'd like to welcome you into this Newman community. Because Newman is a place where you walk in the door and people call you by name. It's a place where every conversation that you have is a genuine conversation. Newman is a place full of people that will care about you and truly push you to become the best person that you can be. Welcome to Newman.